pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My name is Joe Steiner. I am the Vice Chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. Our chair is away on vacation. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial procedure. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Now, for the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page, and it's also broadcast on Summit's governmental channels, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. Now, there's a transcript of this meeting that is also being taken, and we use the video and audio from the speakers to do this, and therefore we need all speakers to utilize a microphone when speaking. So if you're in the audience, please don't speak from there, come up to the podium. Please note that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs them, please come get them here at the dais and return them thereafter. Andy Ball is normally the zoning board's attorney. He's away this evening on vacation, and Dennis Galvin will be our substitute for him. Mr. Galvin served as our zoning board attorney for nearly 20 years. I think we're all very happy to see him here this evening.
Thank you.
He will advise the board members on matter of law and is the key interface with the applicant's attorney. Mr. Galvin does not vote on the applications. Chris Nicola, next to him, is a city employee and is the zoning board secretary. He works with applicants preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola also does not vote on the applications. Also present at the table to my right in the front is Chris Dower, the board's engineer. He provides input to the board and also does not vote on the applications. Our board up here consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates, and as you can see, we must be entering the summer because a couple of them are not here tonight. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 of us can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes. You'll be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Chairman Spur is excused. Vice Chairman Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
Ms. Newell?
Here.
Mr. Mullen, we're expecting but not here yet. Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz?
Here.
Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager is not here yet. Dr. Levine is excused, and Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum, you can proceed.
We generally hear the cases in the order they're listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some cases are too complex to be heard within that time. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses that the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have the opportunity to ask questions. That's not the time when you tell us what you think about the application. That comes a little bit later on. Before you ask your questions, please, again, come to the podium, clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that the court reporter is able to keep a clear and accurate record. All witnesses, after they've all been heard, members of the audience now have that second opportunity that we talked about to speak, and at that time you'll be sworn and you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you normally will not be able to participate in that discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If a case requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your case to another date, and it will not be decided this evening. Krista Anderson, the city zoning officer, has asked that we remind all applicants that they must carefully read the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and pay particular attention to the conditions that are contained in that resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must obtain one and have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will cause extra work for city zoning staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available a month after we decide that case. And now we're going to go through the list of the cases we have tonight and just briefly come forward and tell us how long you think, if you can make it in 30 minutes, and how many witnesses you have. STMB Properties.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. James Weber of Alfonso and Weber on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you.
We're requesting a special meeting in July to engage in the continuation of the hearing. In the board's consideration of that, we have at this point to conclude the civil engineer's testimony, then we have the traffic engineer, and then we have the planner. In that regard, we are looking at 2.5 witnesses. And as a result, I'm asking the board to consider whether or not they would permit this to possibly start at 7. And that would therefore allow for the application to be concluded, give the board the ample time it needs for deliberations, and give this a solid shot at a completion at the special meeting date.
If I may, I have something to add in here. This application has been under our review for so many times. It's been over and over, and there is a major issue with that I would like the board members to vote on, and that is the stacked parking in a 52 residential units. That is unheard of, and I don't think anybody from the public or the board members
I think we have to allow them to completely hear their complete case before and get into that, but we can't vote until we hear their complete case.
But that is a major issue.
It may be, but we have to hear the whole case. I believe that now the issue as far as starting early, I believe the date that we have surveyed the board is July 27th. For a special meeting, and you're asking for 7 o'clock. Was
in the hope of finishing, right?
in the hope of
finishing
completing
that
it that night.
That's what
So
we want
would
to
go
do.
at that point. That's what he's hoping to do.
Let's remember how many sessions did
This is only the
we
third.
spend?
I think it's only the third.
This is
Yeah,
the
that's
third
right,
application,
and that would
third
be the
hearing.
fourth.
I will give you my thoughts on this
Yeah.
after when we take a break,
Okay,
okay?
that's good.
But I appreciate the frustration, but the way that we win cases is being extraordinarily patient.
So we have, and I think we have to give the applicant every opportunity to present his
They're
case.
going to present the rest of their case, and there's probably, you're going on and on because you got neighbors that are complaining about it, right?
Well, the plans have gone through renovations. There have been neighbors who have come
Right.
to offer their opinions. And as a result, it is something that, while everyone recognizes it is a beautiful building, the point that Mr. Millay makes is the focus of the application.
Right. Part-time, unpaid volunteers serving, 4th time out, gets a little bit much after a while.
What-
So if we
I get
could
it.
do the third time, that would be great.
Was this carried without notice?
This was carried on the record to tonight, and then tonight it would be carried without notice again.
Well, how do we get the notice to the folks that may have an interest that we're changing the time?
Well, at that point, to the extent that you
No,
have
you
told
can't.
everyone that you can be here tonight,
Right.
that this has been carried through.
We can't,
Mhm.
I don't belong here. Technically, though, we can't carry you to another night at 7. We can carry you to that night at the regularly scheduled time, but I don't think it would be right to move the meeting to 7 without giving the public who's interested in this case in particular some notice that we're starting early.
That was my concern with their 7. I didn't get a chance to bring that up, whether or not you were planning to do
I think
additional
that's
notice.
a fair decision to keep it at 7:30.
Keep
If we
it at
decide,
7:30 and cut some of your case out.
Well, and.
For the,
and
for
we-
the, wait a minute, for the judge who has no sense of humor, I'm kidding.
yes.
And I think this board will do its best to complete this case that night. I think all of us have a commitment to do that. So I would accept a motion to carry this without further notice to 7:30 on July 27th.
And maybe we can also limit the time for each witness, because some of these witnesses are, I mean, they went beyond the acceptable questioning and answers. I mean, that was my experience from last session. They went above and beyond the questions
Well, we will-
normally
I will
asked.
pass your thoughts on to our chair, who will be running that meeting. And certainly you can tell, Steve, Mr. Spur, how you feel about that, and it will be up to him to conduct the meeting in a judicious and orderly manner. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved to carry to July 27th?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay,
Seeing none.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. The applicant agrees that the board can act on this within the period of time and agrees to the extension of the period of time for the board to act.
So you're waiving time through July 27th, is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 141 Oak Ridge Avenue, Mike and Amy Pollock.
At this point, we want to know
At this
how long
point,
you're going to take.
That's all we're looking for, is how long you're going to take.
No more than a half hour.
And how many
Well,
witnesses
you're
do
looking
you have?
over at David, is he your witness?
David is your
Okay.
only witness?
Yeah.
So you're hoping he'll only take a half hour? Okay.
Okay, 129 Whitridge Road, Daniel Lieberman and Christina Sierra.
Yes. So less than a half an hour in the same David Rosen. So
Okay,
He'll be worn out for your.
David 2, okay, and number 4 is 26 Joanna Way, David Miselis.
Myself,
Mizell.
Daniel, myself. I'd be surprised if we weren't the fastest one tonight, so, but I always say that. And I'm usually right. So one witness should be done pretty quickly.
Okay.
Promise.
And 29 Plymouth Road, I believe, David, are you representing that one?
That one is carried.
Okay, the request,
Chris Nicola
do you
has-
have a formal request, Chris?
Yeah, so after discussion with Mr. Rosen, it appears the most suitable date would be September the 7th.
You're right. And does the applicant waive the time which the board has to act?
Yes,
Could you give us that in writing tomorrow?
yes.
Okay, unless you already did and I don't know what's going on.
So we need a motion to carry that without further notice.
So moved.
Second.
So this motion to carry is subject to getting a letter from the applicant
Right.
saying that they've
Waive all.
waived the time which the board has to act till then.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Okay, back to the top, and the second case, 141 Oak Ridge Avenue, Mike and Amy Pollock. Ms. Pollock, would you,
Continue standing, raise your right
Stand there.
hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Say your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Amy Pollock, P-O-L-L-A-C-K.
Thank you. Mr. Rosen,
Yes,
do you swear or affirm testimony about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
State your full name.
David Rosen, R-O-S-E-N.
Mr. Chairman, accept Mr. Rosen's credentials as a licensed architect?
As long as he tells us that his license is still in effect in the state of New Jersey.
Everything's good.
And I think that will carry throughout the evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Pollack, would you please explain to us why you're here and what variances you are requesting from this board?
Sure. So I live at 141 Oak Ridge Avenue, as you had mentioned. We've lived in the house.
I need you to be a little louder. I can hear
sure.
the fan, but I can't hear you.
Sure. Great. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I live at 141 Oak Ridge Avenue, and I've lived there with my husband and 2 kids for just about a year. And the house is from 1910, so it's on the older side, and the kitchen is relatively small for a family and to be able to entertain our extended family as we would like. So the request is to bump out the back portion of our house slightly to give more living space to the kitchen area, and then also update and renovate a bit of the backyard. In
Okay.
terms of the variances needed, I'll leave that up to lot coverage.
We'll leave that up to David. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, Mr. Rosen, if you would like to take it from here.
Okay, I'm going to go over there so that I can go through the images.
Just kind of sneak Mr. Gardner's, sneak that microphone over towards you.
Thank you. Okay, as Amy mentioned, this is the house, 141 Oak Ridge Avenue, built in 1910. We're here, as Amy mentioned, for a single variance for lot coverage in order to be able to expand the house and to add on to the back. And I'll just go around the house. This is the back of the house. I'll get a little bit more here. The project is a one-story addition, which will come out to where this stair and wall is, and will extend a little bit farther over to the right, and I'll show you that in a moment. The purpose for this is that there isn't really a mudroom on the back of the house. It is really just this sort of small enclosed porch area that serves as a mudroom, where there's not a lot of room for people to walk once there are shoes and backpacks and coats in there. And so we would like to make a nicer mudroom, and then the kitchen itself, we would expand the kitchen toward the side, and it will come into the area. It'll come across from the back of this, across here and back into about a line in between where there's a little bit of a bay from the dining room and these French doors. So overall, the project will be a better mudroom that really works for the house in order to be able to enable a place to put all of the things that go in and out. And then a renovated kitchen. When this house was built, the kitchen was really more of a servant space rather than a family or a social space. And so we want to make a new kitchen that will really be appropriate for this beautiful house. And then there's a tiny breakfast area right now. This space behind the current dining room coming out, that would be the new breakfast area. We are not adding a family room. We are adding basement space directly below, but that doesn't impact any of the statistics significantly because we're in conformance on everything else. Just coming just to get another view of the back of the house. And these are photos, as it says, June 15th this year, this week. And this is another one showing the back of the house. And again, just to the left of where this umbrella is, coming into the house about here, coming out, and then straight across in line with the current back of the house. So we're sort of filling in a bit of the back left corner of the house. There are another couple of items that I just wanted to mention. we're seeking a lot coverage variance, which is really quite small. It's only 42 square feet. And the statistics are, and I'll round off just a little bit. The existing is 36.9, and we're going to about 37.2. Okay, so it's 0.3%, and that's 42 square feet. And the allowable is 35. So allowable 35, existing just under 37, and proposed just slightly over 37%. There aren't any other variances necessary, and as we go through this, I just want to point out those statistics that I just mentioned are on the bottom of the screen here. The property, it's in the R15 zone. It is just the right size. It's just slightly over 15,000 square feet, and so this is the only variance that we're seeking. On the drawings, on the first sheet, I've just come in a little bit. You can see in the area, there's an existing raised patio, and there's a lower, that circular round patio that is in the ground. What we are proposing to do is to remove both of those patios and to build a new on-ground patio a little bit more off to the side. And you can see the area that's shaded in here that is the small proposed addition. Just to give you a quick view of the back of the house. This is the existing back of the house, and then I'm just going to scroll down, and you'll see that the new part is very similar. It has the same tile roof, the same stucco, but it's just slightly bigger, and you can see this area is most of the addition. Now, in the calculations for this, in the staff reports, Krista Anderson noted a couple of things, and I highlighted them here. Up near the top, it says that the applicant should be prepared to demonstrate which existing overhangs are being removed by 46.2 feet, square feet, which we're using to further reduce the building coverage. So we're not changing any of the roofs. Let me just go back to those photos. You can see these are long extended roof lines. What we are doing is we are adding underneath here, so there's a piece of roof in here and a little bit of roof in here that currently count as building coverage. They'll stay as building coverage, but we're counting them in the category of actual building, not just in the overhangs. The overhangs are unchanged, but we put the statistic of what's being counted into building rather than just in the roof overhangs. Just to remind you.
So some of it is the confusion of saying that we're eliminating it, we're really putting a structure below it.
Correct. Right. We moved it from one part of the overall calculation to another, but it's all properly accounted for.
Yeah.
Just as a reminder for those who may be wondering why, in Summit, if a roof extends 2 feet, up to 2 feet, it does not count in building coverage. Once it extends over 2 feet, the whole roof overhang counts. And so here we have roof overhangs that are a little more than 3 feet. So the whole roof, the whole 3 feet counts. And so that's in the calculation of overall lot coverage. And some of those numbers are listed on the, I think on
So
on
could you repeat
V1.
yourself on one thing? What's the ultimate overage on building coverage when you're all done with the project?
And that is exactly what I mentioned here. There's a net increase, 42 square feet.
And what's that percentage out to?
0.3%.
And that's all you need for this variance?
Yes, but it's already, it's above right now, so anything we do, it's almost 37 right now, so anything we do requires coming to this board just for acknowledgement that the existing is over.
I don't want to overstep my bounds. How's the board feeling about this? Need more information?
Well, I'd like to hear the applicant address the garage.
Okay.
If they want to have a variance for the existing non-conforming location.
And the other piece of housekeeping I want to take care of is you showed us a couple pictures, which
Yes.
we're gonna mark as A1.
Fine, they have already been submitted.
Is
Right, but
any
now I'm
part,
officially marking them A1.
is any
Fine.
part of your
Presentation,
presentation other than what we had here?
everything
Anything
that
on
I'm
your
showing
video?
you have, with the
Okay.
exception of
Of the pictures?
the photos you have, but in some cases, I have, like in these staff
right,
reports,
then-
I highlighted some areas. Other than that,
Staff report highlights, I don't think anybody
Okay.
cares about. I think we might care about if you highlighted things.
Everything else-
On the drawings.
everything else you have, I do have one photo that you may be interested in, which I just had taken this afternoon.
Well, that'll be A2 if you show it.
Fine.
And again, didn't mean to mess you up, and you talked about the top highlight, did you talk about
Yes.
the bottom highlight also?
Getting to that right now.
All right, and I'll shut up.
So, the proposed lot coverage, Chris Anderson agrees with the numbers that we had calculated. This is, I rounded off saying we're about 37.2. She says 37.18. That's also the number that we applied with. So then the next item, with which Mr. Yuko just mentioned, is the location of the detached garage is non-conforming, having a setback of 3.6 feet in the rear right corner, whereas 4 feet is recovered. Just to go back to this drawing, I'll zoom in over here and we'll take a look at that. So the back of the garage, the existing garage, is not parallel with the rear property line. The garage is also from 1910. It is unchanged. It has remained unchanged for a very long time. It is 3.6 instead of 4 feet in this back right corner. So that's an existing condition which Krista noted, and I'll be glad to discuss further if there are any question about that.
Well, I think the issue is would the applicant like us to grant a variance, because right now, if you wanted to, I don't know what kind of shape it's in, but if you wanted to tear it down and rebuild it, you would need to come back for a variance, whereas if we grant a variance now, if you do want to replace it in the exact location where it is now, you would not need to come back. So-
We have no interest in redoing the garage at this point.
Right, but I think that getting the variance is the simplest
Yeah.
process. It just acknowledges
Got it.
that the garage has
Got
been
it.
there, it is there,
Okay,
and it just makes it sort of official.
Keep it.
okay,
100 years old.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's no need to change the garage, so we're fine with that.
We are going to add the variance for the garage.
Yes, please.
We're gonna recognize
Okay, we're going to
that
recognize it, because I thought you were saying something different. You're saying keep it, they're saying
Dave's
change.
going another set saying you can take it down and put up a new garage.
Right,
I think that changes the case demonstrably, you guys have to weigh it out.
okay.
Okay,
Sure.
but saying that it's okay where it is,
Okay where it is, that's what we're asking
Yeah.
for.
But that means also that if it gets destroyed by something else or some reason it has to come down, they
it's
can
still,
replace it without coming back.
even when you have, I'm comfortable, because even when you have a non-conforming structure, we want to eliminate non-conforming structures whenever there's total destruction or abandonment. And so even if we grant a variance for something that makes something non-conforming, we still have a right to eliminate it if it became totally destroyed. Also, if we're going to take down a 1920 garage and they're going to replace it, they should conform to the setback, I think, by way of advice.
Not a problem, however the board wants to interpret it.
It's-
We're fine with everything. We're not planning on changing anything. In the event that this garage was removed, I would assume that we would need to be a few inches farther away in that back right
So
corner.
it'll be a non.
But I think it's good to acknowledge that it is there, it's intended to remain there. It is not in a conforming location, and the 3.6 can continue.
If we wanted to be really hard butts, we could make you move it. Okay, we're not gonna do
Yeah,
that, it's
that's
impractical.
what we want.
I know, it's impractical. So I think at this point.
We can
save
move
your-
on.
Save your powder for the next case?
Okay. Anything else?
I just wanted to move on just to show, there were a couple of other comments that I wanted to address. I think I need to be on page 7. Yes. Item 13 on the engineering report. The plans note that there are several fences that meander along the property line, and that the existing wood trash bin shed encroaches approximately 1.4 feet onto the adjacent property. The piece that you don't have, which will be identified now as A2, is that shed. The fence is brand new. The shed, however, was there, and they just brought the fence to the sides of the shed. I don't know who put the shed there or when it appeared, but it was there when you bought the house?
Yeah.
So, just going back to the drawings, just to show you where that is, there are a couple of comments. One is that the shed is off to the right over here, and you can see that it goes off the property. If the board would like us to move it onto the property, we'll do that.
Does that impact building coverage or impervious coverage?
Excellent question. It does, and it does not. And in a stroke of genius by somebody in our firm, and I'm not sure exactly who it was, over here on the calculations, let me just get to it. In the middle, I don't know if you can read it from there, it says shed, 33 square feet existing, 0 square feet additionally proposed, and 33 square feet. The shed is 8 feet by 4 feet. It's 32 square feet. We counted a little bit more in case it's at all irregular. We counted the entire shed. In the event that we had to move it onto the property, we didn't have to ask for another variance for building coverage for that. However, if we move it onto a conforming location, we may need a variance, depending on where it's positioned. We may need a variance because for the setback. It is allowed to be 4 feet from the property line if it's in the rear yard. There's a line that comes across here, which is the rear yard. Part of it is, but most of it is not. If we shift it back, what we would really like to do is just simply move it onto the property, give a little space behind it, connect the fence, or just leave the back of the shed as the continuation of the barrier, but put the shed on the property, but we would need a setback variance for that. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, like, ideal state would be we would just move it however far we would have to.
Yeah.
And
Move it a
of course,
foot and a half.
there is the other option is, does your neighbor,
They don't care
are they aware
that it's,
that it's on their property?
when you say are they aware, like, we have a good relationship with them, they've never said anything, we moved in a year ago.
Well, you have a nice neighbor now, but your next neighbor could be a
Right.
neighbor from hell
Yeah.
and go, and then
Well,
you'll
which
have to
is-
move it or take it down, right?
Which is why
Okay.
we would require a letter or something, which we've done in the past with situations like this, from that neighbor, if we were to allow it to stay right where it is. And that is the other option.
Okay, so
And we've done that
it's
before.
probably the smartest thing for us. I don't know how the board feels, but, and you should tell me if I'm way off. We should move the shed onto this property, close the fence, and you don't have a future problem with an angry neighbor. And we
Got
should
it.
grant you whatever variance relief
I
that you
think-
need to keep the debt.
Personally, I think that's up to the applicant to decide which they'd like to apply for.
I think they should move it. It's, if it was any other applicant, we'd say move it from your neighbor's
Yeah.
property. We've done
agree.
that for
Do I
almost
have
all.
to close the back of the fence? Like, could we just move
Oh,
it?
David said he would. Okay, but he doesn't.
David just committed
I
you to
didn't,
that.
I just made it up. I don't know.
David just committed you to it.
No, you don't have to, you have to put the back, how tall is the shed? Is it the same, it looked like it was the same height as the fence.
It's lower than the fence.
So, okay, so you can have that as like the fence wall.
Yeah, so
Right.
we just move it and no more fence
So
needs to
we're
go
adding
in.
a
The back-
variance, at your request for the setback.
Correct.
But do we need to get a precise number? Will the back of the shed be exactly on the property line? Will it be 6
No,
inches
it'll
in?
be in a little bit. It's The fence is on the property at this point. It's a new fence, and it went in on the Pollock's property. So if we align with that, it's definitely on the property. I don't know what the distance is. It's
So can
something,
you supply that to us and we'll put in a resolution?
sure.
That's all. I think it's that good, right? How much is the encroachment onto the neighbor's property?
Right now, it's 8 feet wide, 1.4 feet into the neighbor's property,
So we're gonna move it 1.4 feet
or a little bit more, yes.
to get
So
it
that the
on-
back is clearly on their
A
property.
minimum of 1.4 feet.
Minimum,
Yeah.
move it a minimum of 1.4 feet.
Yes.
But I think you just asked, we want to get the exact distance for purposes
Yeah,
of the
we'll get
resolution.
that, we'll get that for the resolution.
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay. Anything else,
And they
Dave?
don't have to buy any more.
Just a couple of other comments that I noted on the engineering report, just a little bit up from there. Items 8 and 9, I didn't highlight them, but I just wanted to mention that item 8, we're proposing a decrease of 33 square feet of building coverage. And the way that we are doing that is, as I noted in the photos, when we look at the photos, this area in here, this is a raised patio, and so it counts in building coverage. When we remove that, the net is a decrease in building coverage, even though we're adding, real house space. And then the next item, number 9, is what we've been talking about this whole time. So that concludes my comments. Are there any questions? Is there anything that I didn't address?
Beginning, Mr. Dower, you're up first.
The only comment I'd have is that they mentioned item 10 about videotaping the stormwater pipe, and just that when they do that video, that they provide a copy to the city.
Fine.
Okay, well,
Okay.
your entire report becomes a condition as usual.
Yes.
Okay. Anything
Anything
else?
else?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, any questions for the board members? No questions from the board members? Okay, at this point, from the public, are there any people is anyone here for this case to begin with? And if not, well, I don't see anybody, but if anyone is, this is the time to come and ask questions of the expert witness. Seeing none, I guess it's time to go to conclude. I guess we go right to public input. Is there anyone who wants to tell us their opinion of this case? Nope. Okay, now we go to you for anything you'd like to wrap up.
Amy, suggest that we move to a vote.
I suggest we move to a vote.
Okay, we will move into executive session. Conditions.
I only have 2 at the moment, but we got to follow up on some of the numbers. Subject to the engineer letter, and 2, the shed is going to be moved a minimum of 1.4 feet, which triggers a variance. We need to know.
Right, so we're adding that variance.
We're going to add that variance, yes, and that's it. And we had nothing from Mr. Linson.
No, Mr. Linson is fine with it.
Just to clarify, that's a side yard setback for an accessory structure. For that existing bin garbage shed as it gets moved completely onto the Pollock's property.
And it encloses the garbage even better,
Yes.
okay?
Okay. Who wants to begin deliberations?
I'll start. This is a really very modest variance. It's not a large addition. It seems like a very appropriate addition. It's not visible from the street. It's in line with the rest of the house. The forester had no comment and notes. Well, his comment was that the project is well screened. I don't see any negative impact on the neighbors in terms of how they can enjoy their properties. So I would definitely support this application.
I can further support this application. I mean, we know a lot of the lot coverage is due to the driveway and the garage being so far set back behind the house. I also you didn't bring it up, but I appreciate that there is going to be a sidewalk going to the front steps from the street. I'd like to pretend that people walk, and not everybody arrives by car all the time. So thank you for providing pedestrian access, but certainly I can support this application.
On this side? No one else? Okay, I think I can sum it up that it is a very small request. I think we've taken care of some other issues that need to be taken care of, which is good. It provides absolutely no negatives to the neighborhood in any way. It'll make an older house usable for the family again, and I can certainly support this application, and would look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Secretary?
Yeah, sorry, you're moving too fast, Joe. All right, Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikitz.
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Steiner.
Yes.
All right.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we
Thanks for
will,
putting up with me on that. I think Andy's gonna be, he's gonna be laughing, because I know he just sits and lets everybody talk. So, wait a minute, this is a timeout. Yeah.
what?
Oh, Dave.
Okay, we're now going to go,
We can set up
yeah, it's going to be 129 Woodridge Road.
Bless you.
It's not COVID, I already had it.
You can get it more than once.
Well, I had it about 3 weeks ago, so I think
Okay.
we're okay.
Okay, we're changing houses. Keeping David, but changing houses.
Oh.
Let me wait till I know that we got these. We got to keep the rookie going.
I'm always paying attention.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Lieberman.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm testimony about giving this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Daniel Liberman, last name L-I-B as in boy, E-R-M-A-N.
Thank you, Daniel. You swear or affirm testimony about giving this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Rosen, R-O-S-E-N, partner at Rosen Kelly.
And you still have your license since the last application. Do we accept David's credentials?
Yes, we.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Lieberman, would you explain to us why you're here and what the purpose of the application is?
Absolutely. So we moved to Summit in August of 2020. We were looking for a house. We stayed in apartments. While we were looking, it took a little over a year before we were able to move into find a house and move in October of 2021. Between the time that we made an offer and we closed on the house, Hurricane Ida, I believe it was, occurred, and we actually experienced flooding through the garage into the basement and through the house. And so one of the key things that we're trying to accomplish with this is to be able to take the garage and move it external so that we can close that off and avoid future flooding. And then my wife and my daughter and I live there, and the kitchen is isolated, and so we want to be able to connect it to the family room and then get the flow through the house, and that's why we're here.
Okay, are there questions for the applicant? Okay, I assume you want to call your witness and let him take us through it. David, back to the side.
So this house is at 129 Whitridge Road. The image that's up on the screen is the front of the house. The addition is in the back, and well, the project is in two pieces, as Daniel mentioned. The addition on the house is a family room. It is typical for a house in this neighborhood, in the R25 zone, to have a family room. This one does not. So we are adding in the back left corner, sort of squaring off the main body of the house with a one-story addition for a family room. Above that, because the addition could obstruct the views out of some of the windows from the back of the their current bedroom. We're just pushing back the second floor about 3 feet just in their bedroom in order to allow for bigger windows to the side to let more light into their room. But the main thing is really just a family room addition and then an internal renovation of the kitchen, breakfast area, and the mudroom, powder room, all of that. Just looking a little bit more at some of the photos, if we, let me just come across, this close to move-in day, it appears, with all of their boxes out here. Just this is so that you can see coming around to the right side of the house, there's a retaining wall, and then looking a little bit further over, we can see that there is actually a retaining wall in the back. All of the back part of the driveway is a retaining wall. The reason that there was a flood is that the driveway, instead of following the natural ground level and sloping out toward the street, slopes down away from the street and is a big funnel, and there's a drain at the bottom. During Hurricane Ida, that not only couldn't send water out, but water came up. Now, it then flowed into the garage, and I'll just show you the garage. 1 second. So it flowed into the garage, and even though there's a substantial step between the garage and inside the house, it went inside the house as well. You haven't even moved in yet, have you?
No, it was between the offer acceptance and the close.
Anyway, they got through that. But the second part of this project is to remove this garage from the basement. Bring the ground all the way back up to its original natural ground level. This garage door area will be filled in with concrete block so that it's back to being a basement. And the garage will then be built in the backyard. And I'm just going to show you, looking at the back, I'll do this one. Looking across the back of the property, the garage will go in this area back here. There's a relatively flat area there. The garage fits nicely. We meet all the setbacks. There is an issue that John Linson mentioned about a tree on a neighbor's property, and I'll get to that in a few moments. The family room, I'll just make this just a little bit bigger. So the family room is going to go in this area where there's currently a patio, and then the patio will be repositioned a little bit farther back in the yard. All of them are in conforming portions of the property, but we are here for 2 variances. And the variances are for lot coverage, because instead of having the driveway come and the garage under the house, the garage is a separate building, and in doing so, we need a variance for building coverage and lot coverage. Now, the lot coverage is minimal, and if we weren't already coming for the building coverage variance, we probably would have just reduced something. But the lot coverage is, here are the 2, this is the project narrative which you've all received. The lot coverage is allowed to be 30% in the R25 zone, and it's currently 24.5, sort of 24.6, and it's going to 30.3. So it's a de minimis kind of addition. It is 65 square feet, and we did remove a small, not only the patio where the family room is going, but there's another small patio, a round patio that's in the front yard that we're removing. And we've tried, but it seems like the best plan, and getting the garage the right size, we have that variance for lot coverage of 65 square feet. The main variance we're here for is building coverage. Again, to add the family room, to add the detached garage, we end up with 204 square feet. So the existing, which is just under 10%, the allowable is 14, and we're going to 15, so we're 1% over. The lot itself is undersized for the R25 zone. Instead of being 25,000 square feet, it's a little under 20,000. If this was a conforming size lot, we would not need these variances. With the expansion of the building coverage and lot coverage, we're also providing stormwater management for all of the new covered area, all of the new building coverage, and so on, so that the condition will be improved over what it is now for a couple of reasons. Specifically on this property, we will no longer get the water coming into the house, so that's a big improvement, but that's really their improvement. We're doing a few other things in order to make it better for the neighborhood. Among those are, I just wanted to point out a few things here. This is on V1, and I know it's hard to see at this scale, but the driveway right now is less than 2 feet from the property line, particularly in the front. It goes slightly away so that it's about a little over 2.5 feet away at the very back of the driveway. We're moving the whole driveway over by about 4 or 5 feet so that it's, the indication here is it's 6 feet from the property line. That allows for a nicer condition for the neighbor to the right because it allows for more planting on this property. And there was a brief phone conversation this afternoon in which that neighbor and Christina Sierra and I spoke. And he was quite pleased with all of this. The other thing that's nice about this is that instead of having all those retaining walls, which can then limit the ability of some of the plants that go in there to be able to send their roots under, we're removing almost all of those, and so that the driveway will follow the natural grade of the property. Let me just show you, just to show you that. So these retaining walls go away, the ground flows more steadily across, and from at the back of the house, when we look into the driveway, on the right side of the property, the curb, there will be a curb, so no water can flow from the driveway onto the neighbor's property, and this curb gets moved over 4 or 5 feet. This wall is removed because we raised the ground level up, and we're using the slope of the neighbor's property as our guide for how we're doing the contours on this property, raising the driveway up.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
Not to, I'm stumbling you stop, but there was a tree that's an issue in
Yes.
Vincent's report. Is that related to any of this? Is that on this side of the house?
It is on this side of the house, but it's all the way in the back. So in this photo, it's way back here on the neighbor's property. I'll get to
Okay,
that
no
in just
problem.
a second.
Just wanted, I'm sure I'm stealing someone's thunder, and I apologize.
So we have this. So then, just going to the report, the staff reports, Krista Anderson agrees in her points number 1 and 2 for both of those statistics. Then just below that, she indicates here the height of the new garage is shown proposed to be 17 feet 5.5 inches. In Summit, normally the limit for an accessory structure is that the ridge of the roof is limited to 15 feet. However, if the garage has a steeper roof in order to blend with the original house, then it can go up to 18 feet. What she's saying, and I know you can't see it across the room for these little things here, but it is conforming, and we'll just show her that it is. Next, there was a note that was a sort of a stray note on the engineering drawings that was mentioned where it says proposed basement access. There is no proposed basement access. We had a stair coming out in an earlier version. We took that off before applying for a variance. The engineer removed the stair but left the note sort of stranded on the drawing. So that's, and I have the drawing at the end here I could show you. But that's the reason for that. So the next thing is that there is a comment, number 11, in the engineering report, and it is about the driveway. It says, the applicant notes that the existing drain in the driveway, and that's the one, remember, the driveway slopes down, and there's a drain at a low point, which was supposed to solve the problem. But when it backs up in very heavy rain, it backs up in the street and comes up through that drain and fills the driveway with water, and if it's enough, it can get into the house. That will be terminated. That just goes out to the street, but or it goes to the pipe in the street. That'll just be terminated, and that'll go away. So we won't get water flowing back onto the property. Now, the next comment is the one about the tree. So John Linson has two comments. The first one is a simple one. He said there's no screening along the rear property line. All the existing screening is provided by Lot 3. Well, that's actually the case most of the way around this property right now, is that there isn't much screening on their property yet, but there will be. It just, nothing has been done yet until the construction activity is done.
So we can submit a plan to Mr. Linson for his review and
Yes,
approval?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so then the second issue is that he mentions that there's a 27-inch diameter sugar maple on the adjoining property. And that a major portion of the sugar maple roots would be lost if the garage were constructed as proposed. Most likely, this would cause the demise of the off-site tree. In relationships with neighbors, it's good not to kill their trees. So the intent was not to do that. Then he suggests that if the garage could be located 20 feet off the rear property line, most of the root conflict could be avoided. So we have a couple of things. This is the engineering plan, which is separate from the architectural sheets, but it's what you have. And what I want to show here, I'm just going to make it just a little bit bigger, so maybe maybe a little bit easier to see. I put a little blue mark about where the tree is. I went back out to the site, and it's just behind the fence. So the fence is the line with the X and the line, and it's just beyond that. Now, the fence is already a little bit into the neighbor's property. And it appears that from the tree where it meets the ground to where the beginning of the garage is about 17 feet. John Linson mentioned, he mentioned this dimension of 10 feet, but the critical dimension is in here. We can meet that 20-foot recommendation between the tree and the beginning of the garage.
Can you explain why that's critical?
Usually, whatever the canopy is of a tree, that roughly correlates in some sort of generally, just real generally, with about how far out the roots go. So there are two issues with a tree like this. A sugar maple tends to have roots that are mostly horizontal, as opposed to like an oak tree, which also has a taproot that goes way down. It also has the more surface roots, as anybody who cuts their lawn knows. But in any case, there are two issues. One is if a lot of the roots are cut, then there's a loss of the tree's ability to absorb nutrients and water. And the second one is a structural one, that if you cut all the roots off of one side of the tree and you cut it too close, then it can't hold itself. And that becomes more of an issue in major storms where...
A lot of water and a lot of wind.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, a lot of water makes the ground looser, and a lot of wind makes the trees sway, but hopefully stay where they are.
So is that measuring from the trunk, or is that measuring from the canopy?
It's measuring, the blue is a rough indication of where the trunk is.
About how high?
How
So
high?
it would be like 4 inches off the ground or like 6 feet off the ground?
The way that the 27 inches, the way that arborists do it, that 27 inches is sort of chest height. That's just one of those old forms of measurement. That's just what they use. So the 27 inches, so about like this, and that seems about right because going out and looking at the tree. So we have about 17 feet here. Now, the other thing that we were doing with this is that there is an existing tree at the corner of the house. And I'll show you that. I'll go back to the photo of that one. The tree that's at the corner of the house, let me just get this.
Mr. Rosen, if you had
Yes.
to guess, what would you think the diameter of that tree, the canopy is?
The canopy is quite irregular. As it happens, because there are no trees of substance on this property, some of the branches have extended way over. Now, some of those are going to get pruned anyway. You're allowed to prune the branches over your yard, even if the trunk is in somebody else's yard.
To an extent, though, right? You can't prune to the point where it's dangerous and you're going to kill a tree. You can't like take off 50% of a tree if it's just on your
That would be
property.
my legal opinion.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's all right.
I don't know the details on that.
Right, you're not allowed to, you can trim on your property, you can't kill the other tree.
Fine.
And nobody really knows the answer.
Right, I would imagine this goes back to like British law from way back where you can't
Nobody
block
wants to kill
somebody's
neighbors.
sunshine and kill the trees and
No
so
one
on.
wants to kill neighbors.
Right, so there is this other tree,
There was a bow and arrow and an apple.
this tree, which is right next to the house, on this property, is a 22-inch cedar. So we were trying to position the garage about what felt about right to preserve both trees. Just going back to that site plan, down here where this mark is, so down in this corner, this is the 22-inch, and that's a cedar. So we're about 14 or 15 feet here to the 22-inch tree, and about 17 feet or so to the 27-inch tree. And I'd be glad to defer to John Linson so that whatever the plan is something that he accepts. We were trying not to lose either tree, so we tried to position the garage, and we didn't make the garage, sort of as big as it
So as we're
Could be.
already including a landscape plan, could we make sure that that landscape plan focuses on that, and that the garage will be relocated appropriately?
We can
Based
shift
upon
the garage, if we shift the garage 3 feet this way, it may or may not significantly affect this tree. This tree, this one near the house, as you saw in the photo, has almost no roots going over to one side. But it's been used to that for a very long time, so it has somehow adapted and it hasn't blown over, even though the roots don't extend more than 2 feet, probably, to the sides near the house, near the driveway and so on. We were trying to preserve that tree. And I'll ask Daniel, just, if push came to shove, which tree gets sacrificed?
I think we'd have to say the cedar is the one that would get sacrificed, so, because sugar maples, it's a beautiful tree, but hopefully we can preserve both of them.
Yeah. So let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you proposing that we, I guess, have a condition that you're going to come up with a new location of the garage subject to Mr. Linson's approval? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that that's a reasonable solution. Keep in mind that when we get these comments, we tend to, although the submittal happens way back, I forget, I don't remember whether it was March or April. getting, the receipt of all of these comments happens just sort of a few, or a couple working days sometimes prior to this meeting. So we don't always get the chance to fully resolve each of the issues, but we have a process for being able to resolve it, and in this case, it would be that we will coordinate with John Linson to make sure that he's satisfied that the position of the garage is such that the sugar maple is the priority. And if it means sacrificing this cedar, then that's what will happen. And there will be replanting. Is that okay?
I didn't want to sacrifice the cedar.
I don't want to.
Now, hold it, we have to,
Yeah.
I can't recognize you from there. Second of all, we can't
Okay.
recognize her at all until we get the questions, et cetera. So-
Need better glasses.
Thank you. Let's just, if you
So-
get the questions, if you're finished.
We will, is it fair to say that we will agree with John Linson's decision on the sugar maple?
Well, sugar maple's not on your property, correct?
Correct.
But moving the
Yeah.
garage 3 feet would give you a 40-foot diameter, correct? 20 in all
20 on
directions,
both,
right?
20 on their side, 20 on ours.
And you wouldn't have to go down
If we move the garage 3
3
feet
feet.
farther forward,
You
away
go
from the
17
sugar
to
maple,
20, yes.
we will increase the distance between the closest part of the garage and the sugar maple from 17 to about 20 feet.
Right.
And
So
if the
20 radius, 40 diameter, all around, right?
When you look at Linson's, he asked for 20 feet
Yeah.
from that tree
Okay,
to this
yeah.
garage, so.
I think we're
yes.
saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's some footage on the other side, so 17 feet, you're saying it's 3 feet on the
So
other side.
if we move the garage 3 feet, how does it impact the cedar?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
I mean, the cedar is a little bit of a difficult thing to try and save, but we're trying because it's, and I'll just go to the,
Let me just,
Mhm.
let me interrupt for a second. One of the things that we have to do in order to grant a variance is to make sure that that we really don't cause a harm on a neighboring property. So there's always a balance between us wanting to help you and grant your variance and making sure there's not a negative impact on the next door neighbor. So it really isn't a choice between a tree on your lot and a tree on their lot. The tree on their lot is the priority. We gotta protect it if we can, okay? Unless you come to some other understanding with them. So.
right. So we will, what we would like the condition of approval to be is that we will get John Linson's agreement, or we will follow what John Linson's directive regarding the distance between the garage and the sugar maple.
How about I keep it this simple? The applicant will take steps to ensure the survival of the sugar maple in consultation with the city forester.
Excellent. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that if we do that, it may change some of the statistics on lot coverage if the driveway is shorter, but I'd rather not complicate this and just approve with the statistics we have in case John Linson says that the garage can stay in the current location in which we've proposed it.
Oh,
And if the numbers change, are they going to require additional variances?
No,
It would actually,
No.
would actually
It
lessen
would
the
be
variance.
Better,
Lessen the variance.
Okay.
better.
it
I
was,
kind of thought so, but I wanted to put it on the record.
yes.
I'm gonna have the zoning officers to confirm the final location to ensure that the final location is consistent with the ordinance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Doesn't trigger a variance, right?
No, there's no problem with that. We're required to have it 4 feet from one property line that's on the side and 4 feet in the rear.
Well, I just want, at some point, we want a final,
Yes,
this is where it is, not gonna move anymore. So, well, the zoning officers to confirm the final location of the garage.
correct. Okay, so I think that that's it. I was just using this photo to show you, this is that cedar. It is the only tree in this area. The one last comment with regard to trees, since we're on this subject, is to show that There is a tree here, and it's marked on the plan as 6 inches. Typically, a 6-inch tree is not subject to all of the rest of these rules. But, so when the application says a tree is not going to be removed, technically a tree is being removed, but it's smaller than, it's small enough at 6-inch diameter that it does not require any kind of approval. That can just be taken down. It's not a larger tree.
There's only one of those?
Correct. Yeah, there's one that's this one, yes. Okay, so just to return to what the variances are. 2 variances, lot coverage, which is de minimis, which is 0.3% over the allowable, and we're providing the stormwater management and all of that. Building coverage is 1% over, it's 204 square feet, and instead of being 14%, it's 15%, and all of these variances would disappear if the lot was a conforming size. All of the other things that are in the project narrative, which list the some of the reasons for it, the positive and negative criteria, you've probably read all that, so I won't repeat it. So, any other questions?
Mr. Dower, you're up.
I think everything has been answered. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Questions from the board? Questions from the board?
On
Okay.
your drawing V3, the basement plan,
Yes.
we have this, where the garage used to be.
Yes.
It seems like what's going to be happening here? Going to be filled out or going to be used as?
It's going to become interior space.
It's not shown on that drawing, is it?
Well, here,
Go back.
this is where the garage currently is. This square is
No, I mean the other side. That's not the garage,
No, this is a new rec room underneath the new family room.
right? And below, to the
That's
left.
this is existing basement area
To the
in
left, that's.
this.
Yeah.
That's just like, that's a slab, I think, because it was originally a porch, and it's now like a little sort of sunroom.
Oh, so this is the basement for the sunroom?
It's the foundation for the sunroom, but there's no, you can't get in there. It's,
Okay, it's filled.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Down. Okay, now you see no questions from the public. Any other witnesses?
No other witnesses.
That's it. Okay, now it is time for the public to tell us what they think of this application. If there's anyone here to make a comment, please come forward.
Wow, what a relief, huh?
Seeing
Can we move into deliberations
Seeing none,
now?
it's up to you to tell us what else you might want to tell us and ask us to do our thing.
Please proceed to deliberation.
Thank you.
Okay, conditions.
Oh yeah, I got conditions.
Yeah, you.
Subject to the engineer's letter. 2, the board's going to retain drainage jurisdiction for a period of 2 years from the issuance so that everything works the way we're projecting it will. 3, the applicant is to supply a landscaping plan to the city forester for his review and approval to provide a buffer, so make it look good the way you want it to. And the applicant will take steps to ensure the survival of the sugar maple in consultation with the city forester. I'm not going to write this down, but it means you're probably going to have to move that garage 2 or 3 feet, and let's hope everything else works together. And 5, the zoning officer is to confirm the final location of the garage. We don't usually give any latitude when you walk out of here, but you do have a little bit of latitude in this case to make all these ports fit.
Okay, would anyone like to start our deliberations?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Again, another case of, I believe they should not be penalized for an undersized lot. I thank Mr. Rosen for starting off his testimony with that. Obviously, that is the case here. The addition is in keeping with the architectural style of the house. Obviously adds benefits. I believe energy efficiency was mentioned in the architect's summary. So having said all that, I can see myself voting in favor of this case.
Anyone else?
I agree, and just moving the garage so that you never have another flood, which is a good thing for the foundation, makes sense. And because it is an undersized lot, everything that you proposed, I would definitely approve of as well.
Anyone else want to chime in? Mr. Gonzalez?
I just feel bad this happened during your closing period, so I would push this on them, but this is fine, you're doing great work and you're trying to preserve the nature of the beauty of the home and the neighborhood, so I would be for it.
I think two things that certainly stand out to me is the stormwater, getting rid of the problem where it comes in from the city is always a good thing. And certainly helps the neighborhood. And the commitment of the applicant to making sure that his neighbor's property is protected to the detriment of his own, if need be, is certainly something that tells me we should consider this favorably. And I would entertain a motion to approve the application.
So moved.
Chris?
All right, Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loikich.
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Steiner.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. and good
You know,
luck.
these two cases were too easy for you. You should have handed them off, you know?
We normally would take a break here, but as we have what has been promised to be the shortest case of the night. Do we keep going? Everybody says, let's go, okay. So we will do our best to transfer everything over and bring up 26 Joanna Way.
David, thanks for putting up with me, man.
Great to see you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Would you like us to swear in your witnesses?
Just one.
well, I think he
All right, one
makes
witness.
his opening statement first.
Well, it was, please stand, I was trying to.
Sorry.
It's okay. You're gonna slow it down then. All right, you can sit down, we're not ready for you yet.
All right, fair enough.
We're ready for you, go.
Ready for me, okay. We were ready for me a couple weeks
And you
ago.
can stay seated.
Yeah, fair enough, okay. So my name is A. Jude Avellino of Avellino Law, and I represent Daniel Mizels, who owns a property known as 26 Joanna Way in Summit. We're seeking to make improvements to the backyard of the home, more specifically removing a 604 square foot deck, addition of a pool with fencing and self-latching gates, addition of an on-grade patio, which has an outdoor uncovered kitchen, a modest expansion of the kitchen, which is located in the rear of the home. We're seeking 1C variance for disturbance of a steep slope. We would not need this variance but for the steep slope, which I would submit is a hardship of the property. The addition is within impervious coverage and building coverage permitted. As we know, disturbance of a steep slope is section 3516.1. It's allowed if it does not cause erosion or other unstable conditions. The outdoor area is designed to blend into the home. It's architecturally appropriate. It is set back appropriately from the street. There are no stormwater issues or detriment to any other properties, and there will be screening and vegetation. Going to the board comments, Krista Anderson already approved construction of the pool permit plan pending approval of the steep slope application. She asked for clarity that the property is not under construction. It is not under construction. We'd like to confirm, she wants to confirm the proposed kitchen addition will be conforming to all the space regulations, which it will. Again, the variance is only required to the extent of the steep slope disturbance. Also like to add that the city forester, John Linson, has no objections to the approval of this project.
There are positive and negative criteria. Mr. Steiner, would you like me to go through them?
We can do that. We can do that under testimony later.
Okay. So at this point, I want to turn it over to my expert, Ryan Smith, engineer.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm a testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, state your full name for the record, spell your last name.
Ryan Smith, S-M-I-T-H, with the firm of Yannicone, Bell & Aldrich. I'm a licensed land surveyor and professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and my license is current, and I've presented before this board before.
Is that, do we accept his credentials?
I believe we will.
Okay, fire away.
Good evening, everyone. You stole all my thunder. Again, we're talking about the Mycells property at 26 Joanna Way. It's block 5604, lot 5. It's in the R15 zone. It has 16,145 square feet. It is developed with an existing single-family dwelling, driveway, and a deck on the back of the house. The existing non-conforming conditions are threefold. Number one, the side setback of 8.7 feet versus the 15 feet required. Number two, the side setback combined, which is supposed to be 31.63 feet, it is 28.8 in the existing condition. And the existing building coverage, because of the deck on the back of the house being more than 12 inches above grade, the existing building coverage is 18.3% versus the maximum allowed, which is 18%. This project proposes a small addition to the rear of the house and rear yard landscaping improvements, including a pool, an outdoor kitchen, patios, and walls. The side setback non-conforming conditions will not be affected. We are not doing anything to change those, so they will continue. The building coverage variance will be eliminated by removing the deck. The removal of the deck and the construction of the small addition on the back of the house will result in a proposed building coverage of 15.3%, a reduction from the 18.3%, which is far less than the 18% required. The only remaining variance is the reason we're here. The property slopes from Joanna Way up to the back of the property about 174 feet, as is noted in the engineer's letter. That's a 30-foot change in grade, which is 17.4% for the entire lot. Now, the entire lot is not steep slopes, because in some places it's steeper and some places it's less, but primarily it is encumbered by steep slopes. You can't do anything on this lot without disturbing steep slopes. There is permission in your ordinance to disturb up to 1,000 square feet with the town engineer's permission, but if we go over that, we need to come here, which is why we're here. Basically, the pool can be constructed in the backyard if we were to use helicopters, but we need to get equipment back here, and that's really why we're here. The discrepancy in the description of the application about being under construction is because our client actually applied for his tree removal permit first, and he received that, and his contractor started work in the backyard. In order to get back there, he built a ramp along the side of the house to get his equipment back there. And when he went to go file for the pool permit, he was told that he has to come here because he disturbed the steep slopes to construct that ramp. So that is what you see on our existing conditions plan, which you have before you. And that's really why we're here. We can't get to the backyard without disturbing the steep slopes.
Chris? Yes. Questions?
I looked at you, I gave you the tip, I gave you the high side.
No, I mean, it's if you look on the steep slope plan, pretty much shows you, that's sheet 3 of 4 of the engineering plans, shows you that the majority of the property, as they noted, is steep slopes. To put the pool in the backyard and to do anything, they need to have construction access, which they've shown and they've indicated was a part of that was already constructed. You know, for them, as I said, they're going to be disturbing a certain percentage of the steep slopes, and it's unavoidable for them to do anything on the property.
Let me give you the bedtime story. The bedtime story is, before I became the attorney for the board, probably a year or two before that, someone on a high hill wanted an even higher view of New York City and really terraformed their whole lot and brought in a lot of soil. And after that, the city got smart and created this, basically this regulation of steep slope interference. And it has worked wonderfully for the last 20 years. And in this case, you're making a very reasonable plea that you're not changing anything. You're not even, most of our steep slopes over the time that I was here were people that were making a more usable backyard, and we're changing some of the slopes, but in this case, you're not even really changing the slope, right?
We're leveling the backyard out enough to create the pool.
The pool?
And a terraced area
Right, but
above the pool.
you're otherwise stabilizing it all.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't have had 1,000 feet of impact if you didn't have to get tractors into the site. But you're not bringing soil in, you're not taking soil out.
This is one of those driveways, you want to drop your kid off at the bottom of the driveway. You don't want to drive up and back down.
Not when it's icy.
Not ever. Okay.
So, I'd say you're at the end of the presentation. I'll support this question.
Yes, questions from
If I may,
our guys?
you said leveling, so how are you leveling?
We're
You're
using-
bringing the soil from top to the bottom? You can do that? Or you're
In the
bringing
backyard,
rocks?
We're creating a set of terraced walls, which you can see on sheet 2 of our plan,
Okay.
to create the level area for the pool. And the extra excavated soil we're taking out of the pool, we're moving to the back right corner where you see the
Is that
proposed contours.
permissible? Is that allowed in the city of Summit? To use the same soil? I don't think so.
Chris?
Structural fill, yes, we
Yes.
can move it around the line.
As long as their use of the soil is shown on the grading plan. If they were to excavate the soil from the pool and say, oh, I want to grade it out even farther, and that's not on the grading plan, what's been approved, then we have a problem with that.
And you verified that what they're doing increases the stabilization of these
Correct.
slopes?
Yeah.
Without bringing any rocks or any foreign soil?
We're not importing any soil.
No. Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, I had a question, actually, it was from Chris's report, the engineer's report, from comment number 9, about the retaining walls, perhaps directing sunlight away from the neighbors' properties.
No, directing the pipe, when I say daylight, that's the pipe comes out into daylight from behind the wall onto their property.
Okay.
So
I was-
the pipe is not directing water towards that, it's just a term that
Okay.
they used.
I was confused.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
sorry.
Okay.
So I have a question, and like, really sorry, it's another tree question, and it probably doesn't impact your building, but it came up on one of the commissions. When you got the permit to remove the trees, how, were they small trees, or were they large trees? Were they unhealthy? So when the forester went out and gave you the permit, presumably he looked at them and said, yeah, I'm okay with you taking down all these trees. So were they healthy, or what?
Unhealthy trees that needed to be taken down.
So so it was like unhealthy trees that are coming down, and you're gonna use the property
Yes,
like corrected? Cool, that's
That's right.
perfect, that's great, makes sense. Thank you.
thanks.
It's just to know, what's going
And-
on,
and just
what the
to
thinking
add-
process is.
Just to add to the record, we have a new, when we all got this late, as the landscape plan, which was submitted after, and which Mr. Linson has made very positive comments about. So, add that to the record. Okay, are there any members of the public here that would like to ask a question?
Want to ask a question? Oh, you're just watching?
Okay, anything else from, do you have another witness, or is that it? Okay, then we're going to go to public input. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment? Well, that's what you were going to do. Okay, seeing no one to make a comment? Any closing?
No, sir, I'd love to boss Mr. Galvin around, so.
I'm retired, man. That's just, they're not going to have me come back after tonight.
Yes, he's getting a D- now. No, I'm kidding. We love having Dennis around it, and, whenever Andy wants a night off. Anyway, can we move into deliberations, which means conditions?
All right, I have two conditions, one subject to the engineer's letter, two, the board's going to retain drainage jurisdiction for a period of 2 years to make sure whatever the proposal you have functions the way it's supposed to.
Okay, any, who wants to kick it off? I'm going to go this side first.
Would you
No
find
one
this
wants
case
to say-
draining or what?
No one wants to do that.
Oh, gosh.
We do miss you. And you,
Like the third, like the third turkey, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you that joke when we're done.
you know what, it's pretty much an easy case, modest, and you explained why you needed the steep slope, and you're going to reuse the soil. You know, and making sure no neighbors are opposed to this, which is great. So I would definitely approve this application, and you held true to your word. You were quick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the steep slope, it's not a, you know, kind of a major steep slope, which I think would cause concerns. Any stormwater issues are being addressed. Appreciate the detailed landscape plan. It's glad we got that before, so I was okay with it. So I can support it as well.
I think it's a case that we almost have to move it forward, otherwise he doesn't get his pool. And we're all going to get invited.
Pool party in
We need to move this forward. It's good for the neighborhood. And we can, I don't see any negatives to it to anybody. So I would entertain a motion.
So move to approve?
Second.
All right, Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Ms. Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Mr. Loiketz,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Vice Chairman Steiner.
Yes.
Okay, we have dispensed with moved 29 Plymouth Road to September 7th. There are no resolutions for memorialization. We have one set of minutes to deal with.
Actually, we won't even have those. I need another 2 weeks to do those, so I'll double up for next meeting. So we'll get out on
So then
time.
we are now adjourned.
Well,
until-
before we adjourn, just one thing. I do want to point out that on July 1st, Liz Newell is getting married. And I want to we should wish her and Joe all the happiness in the world.
Thank you, everyone.
Hope
Good
to
luck.
see you soon.
Good luck with your project. Thank you.
On that happy note, we are adjourned.